Hey everybody, welcome to our review of episode 5 of Star Trek Picard season 3. Hi Jason.
Imposters. What? Hi.
Imposters. Yes, imposters.
Hi everybody.
Not a single poster in the entire episode.
We watched it. We just finished like maybe 3 minutes ago.
Yes.
And I know how Steve feels.
I can already tell that we disagree about this one.
So Steve.
Yeah.
What happened in this episode? Spoilers.
Spoilers. Yes, spoilers. Okay, so the Titan is on its way back to Federation space, and they get met by another Starfleet ship, the Intrepid, because Captain Shaw has called Starfleet and basically said, "Hey, Picard and Riker, get them the hell off my ship, please.
Time for the trial. You guys get in trouble."
Yeah, they kind of stole my ship, and so I would like justice, please. So the Intrepid shows up, and the Starfleet security intelligence officer who is leading the investigation into Riker and Picard and their actions shows up, and oh my gosh, wouldn't you know who it is?
Yeah,
it's Ro Laren.
It's Ro Laren.
It's Ro Laren. What a small galaxy. Yeah, okay.
But what I heard over my headphones was,
you know what I heard? I heard the telltale creak of the opening of Terry's toy box.
Oh my God, in heaven.
As he said, writing a TV show is hard.
Anyway,
let's just throw some Easter eggs. Here's the thing. Okay, so Ro Laren was like the big.
Let's finish the whole thing.
Okay, so oh yes, because it gets better. So Ro and Picard are mad at each other over something that happened 30 years ago.
Yeah, on the TNG show.
Picard is way too much of a dick about it because because back in the day when Ro, the way they wrote Ro out of TNG was she joined the Maquis.
That was the second to last episode of
TNG. And apparently Picard's been taking that real personal all this time because he's still mad at her for it.
Yeah. And she's mad at him for some stuff.
And she's mad at him for being mad at her about it. And but eventually they settle all that. They have a little heart-to-heart in the holodeck where apparently the Guinan's bar program is just running 24/7. So they have a little.
As soon as they're out of danger, they'll turn it off.
As soon as the crew doesn't need a place to go to like have the existential crisis when they think the ship's going to blow up. But yeah, so they have their little heart-to-heart in the holodeck, and because also changelings are everywhere, so they're not sure if they can trust each other or not. So they have their little heart-to-heart in the holodeck, and they realize that they are each themselves. And then Rose says, "Oh, hey, guess what? Here's the exciting, completely original plot for this season. Starfleet is compromised at the highest level. Trust no one."
Yeah.
And Picard's like, "Oh shit, okay. Well, thanks for telling me." And then she gives Captain Picard or Admiral Picard, she gives him her Bajaran earring, like in a little secret handshake before she leaves. And then she goes back to the Intrepid, but she goes to her shuttlecraft to go back to the Intrepid. But then it turns out
that was weird that they weren't using transporters,
right? Because Rose said she doesn't trust the transporters because apparently, like, there's so many changelings all over the place that you can't, anybody could be one, and she doesn't know who to trust, so she doesn't want to use the transporter. So, but anyway, so she's on her shuttlecraft on her way back to her ship, when her security officers are like, "Ha, we're changelings too," and they plant a bomb on her shuttle and beam away. And so she does like a quick phone call to the bridge of the Titan to talk to Picard, and she says, "Hey, oh shit, guess what? My security guards, they were changelings too. Everybody's changelings. Don't trust anybody, and I'm gonna buy you some time by flying my shuttle that's about to blow up into one of the engine nacelles of the Intrepid so that they won't be able to follow you right away. So that's what happens. She flies her shuttle and it blows up. Boom. Picard's sad. And then the Titan manages to warp away before the Intrepid can hit him with torpedoes. And also it turns out that Rose's earring was actually a USB drive that had all of her investigation materials, because she's been looking into this changeling thing for a while, and she has all this stuff that she's found out. And also it turns out that Ro was the one who was in charge of Worf's investigation that he's been doing with Rafi on the Blade Runner planet.
Yep. And there was stuff during that where they had to go find a guy to figure out how they broke into Daystrom.
Right. And there was one scene that was dragged out for an entire episode where they were just standing in the street for 40 minutes and nothing happened. And then
we
finally
did not
there was
watch 40 minutes of them standing.
It wasn't 40 minutes, but it was like, oh, let's cut back to Wharf and Rafi. No, they're still there, same place, doing the exact same thing. But eventually something happens there, and they have a fight, and Worf plays dead, and then he comes back up. And you actually made an observation, because the explanation was like Worf and Rafi have a fight, and Rafi kills him, and then he pops back up alive and kills a bunch of the bad guys. And then he's got the head bad guy in a headlock, and he's got a knife on his throat, and he's like, I have learned to regulate my bodily functions in the way of Kahless.
Ancient Kahless technique of
of whatever. Yeah. And
I'm Batman.
And you said, oh, Worf is Batman. And I said, yes, but he's the Adam West Batman, because Michael Dorn often reminds me of Adam West in the way he delivers certain lines. Is one of my favorite things about the way he plays Worf. Is he has a very Adam West feel about him sometimes. But yeah, so now they know now they know how to get into the Daystrom Institute to find out what the bad guys wanted there. And Worf Skypes what he thinks he's Skyping Ro, but Ro's been blown up by this point, so he actually is Skyping Picard and Riker. So now Worf and Riker and Picard are connected, so that plot line is finally merging with the other one.
Right.
And oh yeah, something's wrong with Jack.
We've known that, but now Jack at least finally told his mom, after he murdered 4 people that he didn't know were changelings. Which
I have to say, one of my favorite parts of the episode. I was like, yeah, get it. I was like, get it. Well, him not knowing, and also him fucking murdering those people. Like, yeah, get him, Jack.
Because we're giving our character something to do. Beverly figures out that there's something weird about the changelings, that they can maintain their shape after they're dead, and that they
even have like internal organs and stuff,
and blood and stuff. So it makes them impossible to spot through the old blood test. You have to mince them very finely before they return to a gelatinous, a gelatinous state.
You have to go Martin Yan on them before they will turn back to goo. But yeah.
So hopefully next episode they'll be off to the Daystrom Institute or something.
I would fucking hope so.
Settle down. It's not like they've been dangling the Daystrom Institute for 5 episodes.
They haven't been dangling it, but it's like, all right, come on, let's go now. Let's go. So look, I don't want to give the impression that I hated this episode or I thought everything in it was bad. There were some good parts.
He did hate all of it. He hated it.
The Ro and Picard stuff did eventually go somewhere and did eventually work for me. Although, much like the Changeling stuff, I am still annoyed that they did it at all.
But Steve, your big complaint about the Changeling stuff was that it was from DS9, and you can't get more TNG than Rolaren. Can ya?
She was a TNG character. My problem with her, my problem isn't that she wasn't a TNG. Here's the thing. When I complained about the Changelings when they first revealed, guess what, everybody, it's Changelings. My problem with it wasn't like, because a lot of people who complained about me complaining about it seemed to think that like it was some kind of canon issue. Like I felt like my argument is that the shows should all be like siloed off from each other. No,
and I'm only doing this as a joke because I know what your
I know. Please.
Your actual position is. Okay.
Yes.
And it's not a canon thing.
No, not at all.
Okay. So I'm sure you have a reasonable explanation as to why you rolled your eyes and sighed deeply when it turned out to be Rolaren.
It's a dramatic issue. It's not a canon issue. It's a dramatic issue. It's an issue with the creative choices that are made, not an issue with, like, of course, Ro was a TNG person and she exists in the same universe. There's nothing like, that violates the laws of physics established within the Star Trek universe that would prevent her from being there. I just think dramatically it's a dumb choice to be like, hey, here's a character who was a part-time character from 30 years ago. Let's use one of the 10 episodes we have in this show to bring her back and tie off what apparently a lot of people thought was a loose end, even though, like, to me, the tying off of the loose end of Ensign Ro was that episode of TNG.
When she just disappeared into the Maquis?
When she joined the Maquis. It was like that was the logical culmination of her character arc. She started as a rebel. She tried to make the Starfleet thing work. And ultimately, she had this other place where she could go, where she was like, actually, I don't really think I believe in Starfleet. I believe in these guys. And she made that choice. So she's done. Her story's finished. Except we're doing this now, so fuck it. Let's bring her back. I'm happy for Michelle Forbes to get a Star Trek payday, as I always say. She did a good job.
Really great in this episode.
She did a good job. Her scenes with Patrick Stewart, at least her last scene with Patrick Stewart was good. The parts where they were like bickering with each other felt really wrong to me. It felt really out of character for Picard to be this bitchy about it after this long and to be like, you betrayed, you have no honor, you joined the enemy. It's like, Picard be of anybody in Star Trek, wouldn't Picard, even if he disagreed with them and thought that they were doing the wrong thing, wouldn't Picard at least have some empathy and understanding for why the Maquis were doing? Would he really be, even after all these years, would he still be referring to the Maquis so bitterly as the enemy? That just didn't feel Picard-y to me.
He's been letting it simmer. 30 years.
Okay. He's been letting it simmer for 30 years.
The relationship that they were kind of establishing between Ro and Picard was father-daughter as a mentor. I liked number one, their argument was never shouty. It wasn't people yelling at each other.
No.
It was a tit for tat. I couldn't, she found him to be, and I agree, she found him to be judgmental, and fuck he is. I mean, he is. He's not a perfect human being. Yeah, he's not. In the argument they had in this episode, I was totally on Ro's side. Yeah, me
because
too.
Picard was being an ass, but it just didn't feel in character for Picard to still be that mad about it after all these years.
I think what prompted it was they were bringing them up as traitors, and he viewed her as a traitor because technically she was. When she betrayed Starfleet and went to the Maquis and said "fuck you" and "fuck the Federation," bye. And so I didn't have a problem. I'll say my bit after you get your all your poison out.
So I thought the Ro stuff ultimately worked for me, even though again it's like Terry's toy box. It's like, can you just write a fucking show? Does it have to be fucking Easter eggs?
Who would it be?
We had two good episodes. The last episode was very good. We both thought the last episode was very good, and it's like, okay, well, I guess we're taking a break from that. Back to the fucking
we've had 4 good episodes.
We've had one very good episode, one pretty good episode. And then I think episode 3 was kind of whatever, and episode 1 was fucking garbage. This episode was a mixed bag. I didn't hate everything about it. There were I'm still with you on Captain Shaw. They've won me over with Captain Shaw. I like him. He had a really nice exit for his first scene in this episode when he said, I'm going to, because it was Picard and Riker and Seven. And he said, I'm going to step out so you can get your bullshit story straight, which was, that was a nice, that was a nice scene. And then when he like reflexively called for security when Picard came back on the bridge at the end, and he was like, "There's changelings everywhere," and Shaw was like, "Security."
You keep repeating lines that they're shouting, and no one's really shouting. What I appreciate on the show, there isn't a whole bunch of melodramatic.
There's changelings everywhere. Changelings everywhere is a terrible story, and it bores me to death.
It doesn't.
I cannot. They still have a chance. We're only halfway through the season. There's still an opportunity for it to go somewhere interesting. I just want to put that out there before everybody's like, "Oh, he hates it. He just hates it." But at this point, halfway through this season, if the big story of the season is, "Oh my God, Starfleet has been compromised by," I cannot overemphasize how fucking bored I am by that. That has no interest for me at all. I barely cared about it when they kind of fainted toward it in Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine is a million times better than this show. I just don't give a shit about, "Oh, Starfleet has been compromised." Fucking yawn. I do not care. I am curious about what specifically the deal is with Jack. Although I do, but I also wish they would fucking get on with it and just tell us, because I feel like that's being dragged out too long at this point. It's like, "Oh, something's wrong with Jack. Something's wrong with Jack." All right, what the fuck is it? Like, I'm curious as to what it is, but I feel like we'd better figure out exactly what it is by like the next episode, or I'm going to lose patience with it. Because it's like, all right, come on. He's been having like the fucking tentacle migraines for 3 episodes now. Let's go. So yeah, I mean, I like some of Jack's stuff, even though it's taken too long. I like the Wharf stuff and the Rafi stuff, even though that was dragged out way too long. Little islands of stuff that I like, and overall an episode that I thought was not all that well paced. And, make some creative choices that I wish they would not have made.
What would you have preferred instead of Ro? Someone we don't know, never seen before. This has to be someone.
It's tough to answer that question, because, like, given the story that they have chosen to tell, it means more for it to be someone that Picard knows,
has a history with,
who is the person who tips him off to it. I just think the story they're trying to tell at this point, having seen what we've seen so far, is boring horseshit, and I think they should have just told a different story other than changelings everywhere. Because here's the thing: if you're not a Trekkie and you don't have the background and you didn't watch all this shit, right? It's just like a fucking conspiracy theory story. It's like, yeah. And if you have watched a whole bunch of Star Trek and you do know all the background of all of it, they did this on Deep Space Nine. So it's a rehash. So it's either a generic like spy conspiracy, trust no one story, or it's literally a rehash of a story that Star Trek already did.
We never got a trust no one story in DS9.
Not to the extent that I think they're attempting here, but there were those when they introduced changelings to DS9, and they did they had the thing like at the end of I think season 3 where when Odo like fries that changeling on the Defiant, and then he's like, "Come here, buddy, let me tell you something. We're everywhere." And then that was kind of, it wasn't like every episode, but it was like a recurring thing in DS9 for the next season or so. And like again, I love Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine is my favorite Star Trek show. I never gave a shit about changelings impersonating Starfleet people. I never gave a shit. I don't care.
Well, they never
made it, and I don't care now.
They never really made it an issue. They never
it
really
was an
made
issue it was an issue for certain episodes, and it was
an issue for Sisko's dad.
Well, and for General Martok and for Gowron, and there was that episode where, and the Sisko's dad one, that was that 2-parter when they went back when they were on Earth, and it was like, the changelings.
Do you know how many changelings were on Earth when this happened?
Didn't they say there was 1 or 2? Yeah,
I think it was 2.
Yeah.
Are you done? Is your
spleen?
Please. I loved it. I don't know what's going on with you. I don't. No, I'm kidding.
I've been replaced by a changeling.
Steve and I know each other so well that I know what problems he's going to have as we're moving forward. I don't care. I'm sorry that he can't enjoy it like I'm enjoying it. I don't have the problems that he's having. If anything, this is like the Changeling stuff that I kind of wanted from DS9. They didn't really ever explore the paranoia of having an enemy that could infiltrate into Starfleet or into the Federation, right? There was a couple of episodes to that, but they never stressed just how fucking dangerous that could actually be. Now that we have special effects and stuff like that, when the two people beamed away from Rolaren and back onto the ship, and they immediately changed what they looked like
into different faces,
different faces, different forms. I thought, ooh, that's cool. I hadn't, they're adding stuff to the Changelings. They're making the Changelings obviously that they're different than they were in the past. I remember you saying, I think, why is it that the Changeling retains shape instead of turning goop? And then as soon as you said that, Beverly says, normally they turn into goop.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, but these are different. I'm like, okay, cool. They're different. Maybe that's why they look so weird and meaty. Right.
That's why they look like they have like fat. They look like bacon. They're bacon
really
changelings.
Gross. They're really gross. And I appreciate the grossness. Maybe that's the differentiation between these changelings and the ones that we're used to, like Odo, who turns into, sparkly jello.
Just like brown gel. Yeah.
Yeah. Sparkly orange.
He just turns into maple syrup. Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. And I want to know what's happened. I want to know what's happened with the changelings. I haven't seen them in 30 years. I appreciate seeing them. I didn't react badly to Rolaren and Picard seeing each other. I don't have a problem with Picard having, carried around a bunch of feelings that he would never express any of this shit to anybody. That. It's not like after Ro left, Will came in, swung his leg over a chair and said, okay, let me know how you feel.
Talk to me, big guy.
Talk to me, Jean-Luc. How are you feeling? You're talking about a man who's never had a child, and this is the closest thing he had to a daughter, right? Uh-huh. And it's obvious that Starfleet is really important to him. He even tries to talk Jack into Starfleet. And he's like, you really haven't been paying attention, but me and Starfleet are not a good match, right? Then we get a little bit of that in the previous episode where he's talking about how Starfleet is the only family he ever needed, blah, blah, blah. And it kind of confronts Picard in some of the ways that he did behave on the original show. He was a very judgmental person, right?
He could be, yeah.
He could be. And it wasn't like, oh, well, Rose got off to the Maquis after all this time trying to get her into Starfleet to show that she could be an officer or even a captain, maybe. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I'll sit down, drink my tea, and talk to my fish. That wasn't going to be... So does it feel a little manufactured? Not to me. And the main reason is because, Jesus, they worked. Boy, oh boy, did Patrick Stewart and I can't remember the name of the actress.
I think it's Michelle Forbes.
Michelle Forbes. Boy, they did a great job. Boy, did I give a shit. Did I know she was going to die? As soon as she got on that fucking shuttle, I knew she was going to die.
Yeah, oh yeah, that wasn't surprising. And by the way, good for her. Good for her. She did one episode and she doesn't have to come back.
You heard it here first, everybody. If you're going to make a cameo, do it and then die. Let's hope we don't get anybody else from any of the other shows.
At least she's safe.
Briefly.
She's safe.
And I kind of wish this just to see your reaction to it. Mm-hmm. When they were looking up known associates for the Ferengi that Worf chopped the head off of.
Yeah, yeah.
Morn was on that list. Did you see that?
I didn't see that.
Morn was like right above it. I was really hoping that it was going to be Quark.
I am so glad that it was somebody that we've never met before.
I know.
I am so fucking glad. That is because I gave that story a hard time because I felt like they dragged it out. It was like, oh, now back to Wharf and Rafi kneeling. But I did like that Vulcan guy. What was his name? Kryn. I did like.
Kryn.
I like him.
I like that we've never seen no, that's not true. We've met a Vulcan on TNG that was like a smuggler or something. I can't remember that episode. It was when Picard was undercover.
Oh, yeah. Was she? Yeah, she was a Vulcan. Yeah.
Yeah, she was a Vulcan.
She was played by the same actress who played Savick, Robin Curtis. Wasn't
Yeah,
she?
Robin.
Didn't Robin Curtis play
I'm not sure. I don't.
the Vulcan?
Maybe she was a
Yeah.
Romulan.
Or
I'm
yeah,
not
maybe
sure.
she was. I thought she was a Vulcan. But anyway, yeah,
Doesn't matter.
it was a
But
Vulcan. It was like a Vulcan weapon that they wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the fact that it was a Vulcan. We've really never seen these colors on a Vulcan before. I like the whole sequence. The Rafaela and Worf relationship is working. I love the fact that Worf calls her Rafaela and not Rafi when he addresses her. And any second with Worf, even if he's just meditating. I love the fact that he pulled right out of his ass the whole K-less technique of slowing your heart rate.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, that's perfect. Thank you. Because I knew he wasn't dead. You knew he wasn't
of course,
dead.
Yes, of course not. Of course not.
You know what's funny is sometimes now that he's older, he reminds me of one of the old school Klingons. Oh shit! I'm not sure which one it is.
Like from the original series, like old school,
like old school. But when they made their appearance on DS9 for the
who
what's his name? Calicos.
Kang. Core. Calicos was Core, the first one.
Yeah, Core.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Just a little bit. There's some aspects about him because he has number one. He had a great voice. I mean, he was the voice of Mr. Freeze. Like,
you're thinking of Kang then? Yeah, Michael Ansara. Yeah,
Michael Ansara.
That's who I thought you were thinking of because because Dorn's voice is closer to Kang's voice than it is to Kor's voice. Yeah.
But anything to be able to see, I thought it went along on a very good pace. Boy, this show is teaching us get the most use out of your sets. Now there's two reasons for that. Sets, right? There's sets involved.
Oh, it's nice to have sets.
Physical locations. Nice. But so far we're five in, and we haven't had a different set in a really long time. It's either been on the ship, in the bar in 10 Forward, or on Blade Runner Planet.
Yeah,
or inside the whatever the name of the ship is called. I don't know.
Hopefully, after 5 episodes, they're finally going to leave fucking Blade Runner Planet because I'm so done with Blade Runner Planet.
They've kept me engaged with the sideways weird snow. It's either snow or there's some giant alien there that has really bad dandruff.
What is this? Get this out of.
But despite the fact that they're reusing, getting a lot of work out of those sets, I've remained engaged, and I'm completely engaged now in the show, and it doesn't bother me. I liked seeing Ro again, and I got sad when Ro died, and I got sad when they confronted each other about, what they had wanted from each other when they were serving on board the Enterprise, and how disappointed both of them are with each other, right? I liked it. It kind of runs in, I think one of the things that runs in, everything about this show runs in conflict with what they were talking about in the previous episode. You don't have any close relationships. You don't get, and it's kind of like, every single thing on here is about his close relationship with somebody.
Yeah, like never mind last year. Just forget it.
It's like, remember that time you and Riker met for drinks because he just had a child? Remember that?
Remember that guy who never was close to anyone, and that was the whole point of the previous season. Anyway, forget that. Yeah. Which is fine, by the way. I'm completely. I like if they had hired me to write this season, I would have had to do the same thing. Okay, we'll just leave that back there and don't worry about that.
Let's just leave it forgotten. Yeah, leave it forgotten. Yeah. Just leave it forgotten
because it was dog shit and it didn't make any sense anyway. So,
but I liked it. I thought it went along in a good clip. We've progressed a little bit further. We finally have the two stories have converged because now they're in contact with each other. Right. I don't know why Jean-Luc called him Mr. Worf. He's not in Starfleet anymore. He could have just said Worf.
Worf, my old friend.
weren't you an ambassador for a little while? I mean,
Forget about that too. Never mind. Forget about that too.
why not? The movies did.
The next movie was like, nah, fuck it. He's back in Starfleet.
He's not an ambassador. No, I liked it. Rafi wasn't on the panel, so we didn't have to deal with that. And
you also, with your sharp eyes, you called that she was wearing a mobile.
I noticed that she had a little triangular patch on her sleeve, and I said, "Is that a mobile emitter?"
That was like their attempt at a fake out.
Yeah.
And I liked the way that worked. I just think they dragged it out too long. I like that, like they had a fake out planned, and then the bad guys saw through their fake out, but then they had another fake out that worked. I thought that was clever. I thought that was very well done. I just wish that we hadn't had to cut back to it 3 times before we finally got around to the point.
I didn't mind. I liked it,
but
it got us away from the Titan. We got to see other stuff going on, and then we got the satisfaction of seeing them hook up. Now
the stories have.
And next
merged.
episode, we're probably at the Daystrom Institute.
I hope so.
Trying to figure out when Geordi's going to come along. We know he's in this season. He's the only one left.
I think Geordi's got to be in the next one. Geordi's got to be in the next one. I mean, because if they do, like, I really like, I don't know. They lost me. They lost me to a degree in this episode. But I mean, it feels like if they don't go to the Daystrom Institute in the next episode, what the fuck else are they going to do? Yeah. So they have to go to the Daystrom Institute in the next episode.
A distinct feeling that the Daystrom Institute is a prison for both Lore and for Moriarty.
Oh, yeah, because we got to work Moriarty in for some fucking reason.
And if they're just cameos and Lore isn't involved in the rest of the season, fine.
I don't know. Like, I don't like cameos like that in a show like this. I mean, the premise of the season is we're getting the band back together, right? We're bringing back the TNG crew. All right. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to bring back characters from TNG, and I'm not talking about fucking Moriarty. I'm talking about like, and look, they already killed off Data, so they want to bring Brent Spiner back. So if he's playing Lore, if that's how they're working him in, like, then it shouldn't be a cameo. He should be playing an important character. Mm-hmm. And if like if Moriarty's just going to be a cameo, don't fucking have him in the show. Fuck that.
Unless he has something to do.
Yeah, like he hands him something. Oh, thanks, Moriarty. Good to see you. Like, I don't know.
It very well could be is that they break into the Daystrom Institute, and of course, following a reasonable things go back.
Moriarty is the AI that guards.
No,
the Daystrom Institute. No. What's the dumbest choice? Moriarty is the AI.
They break in. The alarms go off. They get trapped. And the only people they can turn to are the people who've been there. In other words, help us escape. Help us get out. Because now we know Starfleet is after them, right? As soon as I don't imagine next episode is they show up at the Daystrom Institute, they go and they find out exactly what they stole and they leave. They can't be. Oh,
God, they're probably going to be at the Daystrom Institute for the next 3 fucking episodes.
They can't be at the Daystrom Institute for 3 episodes.
They were on fucking... the Blade Runner planet for 5 episodes.
Well, there was things happening, and now if they stay at the Daystrom Institute and things are happening, fine. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay,
just so long as they make something out of it. Sure. I don't need to go planet hopping, so long as the story is progressing.
I don't need to go planet hopping either, but I mean, it's like, okay, we're halfway through the season. The Daystrom shit was introduced in the first episode. We haven't even gotten there yet. And I didn't mind because the last episode was a great episode. Like, I didn't mind not much forward progression of the overall story because it was a good episode. Mm-hmm. But now if we're going to it's like, okay, if you're going to talk about the big story, then some shit has to happen. Like if you want to do a standalone episode, great, make it a good episode. I'm completely fine. But if we're going to talk about the big story, then you better have some shit fucking start happening.
Mm-hmm. They're going to figure out some way to be able to detect changelings. I bet Beverly's going to come up with it. probably.
Oh, so okay, so we'll
At
do
some
another thing
point.
we'll do another thing that we saw on Deep Space Nine 30 years ago, and they can just do it again. Maybe hey, maybe it turns out that these changelings have little things sticking out of the back of their necks.
Hey, maybe they're in cahoots with those things.
Hey, wouldn't that be great? Let's rehash something from a fucking season 1 episode too. Let's just, yeah, sure. Because apparently that's the big idea. That's the big idea. They said they went to Terry Metalis and said, "We want you to write season 3 and we're bringing the TNG characters back." And he's like, "I've got a great idea. Here's my plot. Okay, we're gonna rehash Deep Space Nine, and we're gonna rehash the conspiracy episode from season 1 of TNG. Isn't that great?"
I don't know.
Instead of giving him a swirly, they said, "Yeah, go ahead."
Jesus, like you were a jock. All right, Steve.
I know I definitely wasn't. Wasn't.
Is it wrong that your dissatisfaction with this show makes me happy and
not at all.
enjoy the show more?
Listen to me.
If we weren't watching these things together,
yeah,
but separately,
yeah,
I would be like, "Oh, Steve's gonna hate that."
I am glad that I can bring you some happiness and some joy. You have it good this time because you're liking the show and you're liking when I don't like the show.
Yeah.
So like you can't lose, because if we both like the episode, then it's like, oh great, we both like the episode. If you like the episode and I don't like the episode, you like the fact that I didn't like the episode.
And I can provide a counterpoint.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's good.
Absolutely.
Then hopefully this show will consistently be good for me.
Yes.
Until the end.
It's too late for it to be consistently good for me.
Yeah, I know.
But it can be good from now on.
They're still doing the things that matter to me, and that is meaningful character interaction. Stuff that means something between the two characters. No shouting. No one's yelling at each other. We don't have any melodramatic yelling, right? The whole Ro and Picard scene could have broken down to just melodramatic yelling, when actually what it was a bunch of exposed nerves. Two people getting stuff off their chest. That I feel remains consistent with both the characters. Jean-Luc Picard is someone who never talked about his feelings, really, right? I doubt he talked about anybody about how disappointed Ro was. I think that episode ends with him staring out a window or something, which is his go-to when he's upset, is to stare out.
He's upset about something. There he is at the window.
He's staring out his ready room window all alone again.
Into the blackness of space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And is it kind of sucky that they bring this character on just to kill them? Kinda, but also at least her death had meaning. At least it progressed the story along. At least she had something to do.
I think if given the fact that they chose to do this dumb thing, they did it as well as they did it as well as it probably could have been done. They used her for a purpose. They killed her off in a way that was meaningful. She gave information to our regular characters that presumably will be important and will help to move the plot forward from now on. So, they executed it very well.
What else they could have done if she's still alive? It could have been Admiral Nechayev. They never really got along.
That's true. And they could have they could have been like, "Oh, hey, you fucking nerds. She was a good guy all this time. All you people who are like, hey, look, it's Admiral Bitchayev. Oh, you mean like one of the only non-evil admirals we ever meet in the entire history of the franchise?"
Mm-hmm.
You mean evil? Her?
You mean not crazy?
Not crazy, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I wonder if Janeway's gone crazy.
Well, Janeway, see, that's the thing. I never had a problem with Janeway being promoted to Admiral. I was like, yeah, that seems perfect.
Yeah, that works.
Like she was born to be an admiral in Starfleet.
That works perfectly.
They probably couldn't wait to promote her. The other admirals, when Voyager got back to the Alpha Quadrant, the other admirals were like, I cannot wait to read these ship's logs, you all. I mean, I cannot wait to find out about all the crazy shit she did while she was out there all by herself for 7 years. We're going to promote her so fast.
Oh, just one tiny little thing when they're on the elevator and you know, what's his nuts?
Oh, Shaw.
Shaw is feeling chipper.
Yes.
And, you know, Riker brings up, you know, we've saved the galaxy several times. And he goes, oh, yeah. And then he lists these things that they've done. And my favorite one is the slam against Insurrection, because I don't like that movie. But about how... What did he say that you?
So you could snog a woman on Baku or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but the last one where they mentioned the finale.
Oh yeah,
of TNG, when they fixed that, none of it happened.
Right.
So how does he know about it?
I have no idea. Well, actually, I do have an idea because it hits at my problem with that scene.
What's that?
Even though, like like I've said. I want to make it clear, like I like Shaw now. They've won me over with Shaw as a character. But my problem with that scene is that they have Shaw talking like someone who watches Star Trek. Instead of someone who is a actual character living in that universe.
I figure what they did was
he's like listing off shit that, like, you remember an episode. He might as well have said, "You remember an Insurrection when you know?" It's like, no, you're not a fucking Star Trek nerd who like watches all this stuff. Okay. You're not a member of the audience. You're a character in the world. Why? I hate when they one of the things that annoys me about Lower Decks, because every character talks like they're not characters in a Star Trek show. They're people who watch Star Trek. And when you have a character talking like not a character in the show, but like someone who watches Star Trek, it's like, oh, you fucking can't help yourselves. Like, you know, so that's what I didn't like about it. Cause you're right. That specific one, why would he have that on the tip of his tongue?
Of course, Jean-Luc would report it to Starfleet.
And then Starfleet would go, okay, Jean-Luc, whatever, glug, glug. You know?
No, all he has to do is say Q.
Q.
That's all he has to do. Q, here's the fucking thing that happened with Q this time.
You won't believe what Q did this time.
He kissed me.
He kissed me at last.
Well, I thought he was going to kiss me, and then he didn't. Remember,
he goes, a little bummed.
He gets really close to him when he's in the judge's chair.
Oh, that's right. And he whispers.
He doesn't. No, the point was he doesn't. Remember, he gets really close, like he's going to, and then he just fades.
Yeah. Right. Like he's gonna tell him something, and then he pulls away.
It's one of the best QCs ever. Yeah. See you out there.
Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah. It's
next time we see each other, I'm gonna die. So
yeah, it's going to be so underwhelming when I finally come back. Bye. Yeah.
So I liked it. Yeah. Steve did not.
Well, I'm glad you liked it. I liked certain isolated parts of it, but overall I was not impressed. And it was a huge step down for me from last week's episode.
No, I liked it. And it's, for me, I'm now thoroughly engaged. If they fuck it up, I will say they fucked it up, but so far they haven't. And I am satisfied when I'm watching it. Unlike the Mandalorian.
We were talking before we watched it. You were like, "Isn't it weird that like Picard is better than Mandalorian this year?" It's not. That's not how it should be.
Something happened. Did they switch writing staffs? Is that what happened?
Oh God! Can you imagine if fucking Dave Filoni was writing Star Trek?
It'd be awesome.
I would have to. I would just become a drunk.
You probably would.
I'd be like, I can't watch this.
Wait.
I'd be like, I can't watch this.
Become a drunk?
I have no alcohol in this house.
You say. That's right. It's all buried in the backyard.
There's no way you can verify it. So
after every episode of Picard, you go into the backyard and look at the marker.
No. I don't have alcohol in the house because I have it delivered, and as soon as it gets here, I drink it right away.
While he's standing there, wait.
You got a tip coming. Hang on, just wait a second.
Wait, you're going to take the empties away.
Yeah, recycle this, okay? You promise?
I'm sorry, but every time I deliver alcohol to your house, I cry in the car. It's not. I don't like watching a person do this. All right, I think we're done.
We're done. All right. Jason liked it.
done.
I didn't like it as much as Jason did. And parts of it I really didn't like. But anyway, so we'll be back next week to review episode 6.
We've learned anything. Steve doesn't like it when you pull from both DS9 and now TNG.
That's right. I don't
tell your
want them
stories.
It's like it's putting a gimmick on a gimmick. We already know they're bringing back the regulars. Like that's the gimmick.
You know what I hope? I hope the people behind the whole thing are the Vidians.
Oh, me too.
They can pull from Voyager.
And you know what else? I hope they go back to Viridian 3 and they pull the rocks off of Captain Kirk's corpse and Shatner just sits up and says, "What took you so long?" And it's like a William Shatner novel. That's what I think. That's the only thing that's the only thing that could redeem it. They're like, there's changelings everywhere. We don't know who to trust. Starfleet is compromised. There's only one man we can turn to. And they go to Viridian 3 and they take the rocks off and Kirk sits up and he's just fine, no explanation. And he's like, changelings, eh?
They can just grab him out of the Nexus again.
Oh, that's true. Where's the Nexus? Oh, there it is. Okay, let's go fly to the Nexus. Come on, Kirk.
Let's go. And it'll be easy this time. We can beam in and beam out. It'll be awesome.
Yeah.
We just grab Shatner and he rides a bicycle around the bridge.
He rides an e-bike all the way. He's riding through the ship. So tell me about these changelings. It'll be great. That's what they could do. That's what they could do.
Yeah.
All right.
I hope they CGI Spock in it. Why not?
Me too.
You don't. You don't mean that. You really don't.
I did say I was when they said the Starfleet security people are coming and they refused to use the transporter. I did say, oh, it's Dr. McCoy.
Yeah, you did.
And I was like,
200 years in canon and or something like that. He'd be significantly old. And we both joked that he would be wearing, a Colonel Sanders outfit because he would have gone completely Southern.
Yep. Because the older he gets, the more Southern he gets.
Well, I bet it's Vulcans behind the whole thing. Why? Because I hate them.
Because I hate them. Because I'm a racist, boy. Haven't you been paying attention? I hate them all for what they are. Okay, cool.
Okay, thanks, Dr. McCoy.
Okay, thanks, Dr. McCoy. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, we'll be back next week to review the next episode. Bye, everybody.
For more disappointment from Steve.
Maybe not. We'll see.
Who knows?
I liked the last one. It's not impossible.
Great.
It's not my fault. It's not my fault. They keep fucking up.
Whatever, dude. All right. Bye.
Bye, everybody.